Hello, Cules. Imagine the scene. It's a September night in Paris. The cool air of the Seine seeps through the windows of the Theatre du Châtelet, and the entire football world holds its breath, as if it's about to take a penalty in the Champions League final. We're all there, glued to our screens or sitting in those red velvet seats that seem straight out of a Parisian fairy tale, waiting for someone to open that golden envelope that decides who will be the king of the ball for another year. And suddenly, boom, the name that comes out isn't the one all Cules were hoping for. Ousmane Dembélé, the French magician of PSG, lifts the trophy with that smile that seems to say, "Oops, me again." But wait, Cules, because the story doesn't end there. No, sir. It's the prologue to a thriller with all the ingredients of a heist of the century. Leaks circulating on social media like confetti at a Cule wedding, votes that smell like a setup from afar, and an innocent protagonist left staring at the podium with a face that says, "But that was mine." Yes, I'm talking about Lamine Yamal, our 18-year-old prodigy, who deserved that Ballon d'Or yesterday more than anyone and who, instead, left us with our hearts squeezed and rage boiling like a poorly sealed bottle of cava. Let's get straight to the point, because if I'm telling you this like a Barça match at the Bernabeu, you know I'm not beating around the bush. It all starts a few hours before the ceremony, when the digital world ignites like a stadium under the halftime floodlights. An image circulates on X, Twitter for the nostalgic, a supposedly leaked voting table from the France football offices with Lamine Yamal on top, 805 points shining like the Camp Nou under the sun. Right below, Dembélé with 800. A margin so thin it's like a vote lost in the mail of a Portuguese journalist changes everything. Bellingham third, Rodri fourth, and so on down to the top 10, which includes stars like Salah and Mbappe. The internet explodes. Cules, memes of Yamal with a crown, Cules in tears of emotion in Instagram stories, and even PSG letting out a collective sigh. Because come on, an 18-year-old kid is stealing the spotlight from their star. It's like at a family dinner, the little nephew grabs the dessert before the big uncle. But wait, here's the first twist in this football noir novel. France football steps onto the balcony shouting, "Fake news." Vincent Garcia, the magazine's boss, puts on a poker face and declares verbatim, "I am the only one who knows the result, and no one else knows it until the envelope is opened." A new rule put in place last year to avoid disasters like Real Madrid boycotting the ceremony because it had leaked that Vinicius wasn't winning. So was it a hoax, a Photoshop job by a Cule hacker with too much free time? We don't know, but what we do know is that this leak stirred up the hornet's nest just as Barça arrived in Paris with a delegation that looked like a friendly invasion. Lamine with over 20 family members, as if they were going to celebrate a wedding, not an individual award. Picture the scene on the plane, Rafinha telling bad jokes in Portuguese, Araujo nervous like a kid at his first communion, and Lamine looking out the window thinking, "It's mine, sorry, the Blaugrana veins." And if you're already freaking out over this plot that seems straight out of a spy movie, subscribe to the channel, because what comes next is even wilder. Dissecting this mess without missing a detail requires you to be in the front row so you don't miss a thing. Fast forward, because the ceremony clock doesn't stop, and neither do we. The ceremony begins with Rutt Witt and Kate Scott, a duo that blends Dutch elegance with Yankee charisma, and the Theatre du Châtelet shines as if every seat had been polished with golden beeswax. First, the smaller awards to warm up the crowd. Aitana Bonmati wins the Women's Ballon d'Or for the third year in a row, a machine that makes Barca's women's team invincible, and Vicky Lopez wins the Copa, Best Young Player, maintaining Cule dominance in the youth categories. Jan Lakash and Donnarumma win the Yashin Trophy, Best Goalkeeper. Luis Enrique wins the Men's Coach Award. Ironically, his PSG celebrates while Barca weeps, and Serena Wiegman wins the Women's Coach Award. Everything's going smoothly. Laughter, applause, and in the background, that palpable tension like the smoke of an expensive cigar. Ronaldinho, the eternal gaucho, takes the stage with that smile that disarms anyone. And we all think, this guy played for Barca and PSG, who's he gonna give the ball to? This is the moment, Cules. The envelope opens and, instead of Lamine Yamal, out comes Ousmane Dembélé. First, silence, then a mixed roar. The Parisians are euphoric. The Cules are heartbroken. Lamine, our Lamine, stands up, applauds with that sportsmanship that makes him great, and even goes so far as to hug Dembélé in a gesture that swells my chest with pride. "Congratulations, crack," he tells him, and for a second, we forget the drama. But no, Cules, we don't forget, because that leak wasn't smoke, it was gasoline. On social media, the hashtag Ballon d'Or robbery trends like foam, with Kuhl screaming, "It was Lamine's." And memes comparing the situation to the heist in La Casa de Papel, but with balls instead of bills. One Twitter user writes, "Lamine Yamal didn't win the Champions League, but he won the world's heart. Dembele won trophies, but he deserved to steal the show." Another, sharper, France football, fake leak to distract or miscalculation. Because if Yamal had 805, where did those 5 points go? Into the Seine. Dark humor. Yes, but the kind that hurts because it's half true. And this is where we'll get serious for a moment, even if it's with an ironic smile, because that's what we are, Kuhls. Lamine's season wasn't just a fairy tale, it was epic. Remember, Kuhls, how it all began for him. A kid from Mataró, with Moroccan and Ecuadorian roots that make him universal, made his debut in Barca's first team at 15, but in 2023 to 2024, he exploded like fireworks on St. John's Eve. La Liga, the Copa del Rey, the Spanish Super Cup, titles piling up in his personal trophy cabinet like panini stickers. 12 goals, 18 assists in the league, numbers that would make any winger drool. But it's not just stats, it's magic. That incredible goal against Madrid in the Clásico, the one that dips like a dream and leaves Courtois looking at the sky wondering if God exists, or that decisive pass in the cup final against Atletico. A threaded pass that seems woven from spider silk, invisible until the ball lands in the net. And let's not even mention Euro 2024 with Spain. At 16, the youngest to score in the semi-final and the final against England, his dribble past Walker is a textbook of football anatomy. The Englishman looks like a tree felled by a clumsy lumberjack. Spain champions, Yamal tournament MVP, and the whole world saying, "This kid is the future." The future, Kuhls? It's the present. It's now. Ousmane, a great player, no doubt. Under Luis Enrique at PSG, he shines. The Champions League won 5-0 against Inter in the final at Munich. A lesson that hurts to remember, because Barca dreamed of revenge. 15 goals, 20 assists in all competitions, key in League One and the European Super Cup. But is that enough to eclipse Yamal? The leak said number 805 to 800. A sigh. Experts like Pablo Girold, who dropped the bombshell on X, insist that the votes of international journalists favored overall impact, and Lamine had it. In France, scandal because a Spaniard is stealing their prize, and in Spain, a premature celebration turns into a wake. Barca doesn't boycott like Madrid did last year. Always classy, but in the locker room, they whisper that it hurts more than a penalty shootout loss. And here's the heart of the heist, Kuhls. Who leaked what and why? Because if this list was real, someone at France Football let it slip like a ball released in the penalty area. Vincent Garcia swears he was the only one who knew. But what if there's a mole? Imagine a tired employee, weary of secrets, sending a WhatsApp to the wrong group, or worse, an orchestrated maneuver to divert attention from other awards. Because look, Lamine still wins the Copa, confirming he's the best under 21. But what if that was a consolation prize? Here, kid, but not the big one. Controversy on X. One user writes, Ocean's 11 heist, but with less George Clooney and more French referees. Another, Dembele won thanks to PSG marketing, Yamal thanks to pure football. Goodbye, Ballon d'Or. Hello, Ballon d'Argent. And it's no joke, the award loses its luster every year with these shadows. Remember 2010, when Sneijder deserved it and Messi got it thanks to the World Cup, or 2013, when Ribery was ignored in favor of Ronaldo. A history of heists. And this one seems to be the icing on the cake, but let's go deeper, because a story like this doesn't stay on the surface. Think about the impact on Lamine. Yesterday, after the ceremony, we see him in an interview. Flawless smile, congratulations to Ousmane, he deserves it, but in his eyes, that glint of someone who knows the world is unfair. 18 years old, Kuhls, and he already carries the weight of an entire fanbase, his family. Those 25 people in Paris, ready for a private party with a DJ and Blaugrana cava, end up at a quiet dinner, toasting to the Copa as if it were gold. But Lamine doesn't give up. The next day, he trains with the team, dribbles cones as if they were PSG defenders, and posts a story on social media. Thanks for the support. The journey continues. That's our kid. Fuel resilience, The kind that got us out of dark tunnels like the one in 2020. Now, let's broaden the perspective. What does this mean for football? The Ballon d'Or, organized by France Football and UEFA since this edition, evaluates the full season from August 2023 to July 2024. Yamal dominates in the league, is key in the CUL title, but PSG crushes in Europe. Should we prioritize collective trophies or individual brilliance? That's the debate. Dembele, with his Champions League, Super Cup, and League One, hits the jackpot. LAMINE with La Liga and the Copa, but without the big ears. It's not fair, but statistically, Yamal leads in impact per minute played. 1.2 goals/assists every 90 minutes compared to 1.0 for Ousmane. And in duels won, successful dribbles, that magical touch that can't be measured in numbers. It's like comparing a Ferrari to a tank. One accelerates hearts, the other conquers territories. Reactions don't take long. In Barcelona, the Camp Nou, virtual due to renovations, roars, robbery. LAMINE is the new Messi, don't hide it. In Paris, euphoria, Dembele, prodigal son, king of France. Mbappe, nominated but 8th in the league, tweets a broken crown emoji, subtle. Kylian, subtle. And Ronaldinho, after the ceremony, declares in an interview, football is as unpredictable as life. LAMINE will win it soon. Prophetic, the gaucho, but CUL humor doesn't fail. Memes of Yamal as the professor in La Casa de Papel planning the next heist. Or Dembele with a trophy and a sign, give it back. We're not exaggerating, right? That Dembele is a crack, but it stings like an opponent's elbow. And if you're gnawing your nails over these conspiracies that seem straight out of a Netflix series, hit the subscribe button, because you won't see this on any news channel. Here, we dissect football with a scalpel, not with lukewarm headlines. Let's keep analyzing, because 3,000 words don't fall from the sky, they're built goal by goal. Think about the historical context. The Ballon d'Or, born in 1956, has witnessed glories and tears. Pelé never won it. Maradona only once, Cruyff 3, Messi 8, Ronaldo 5. An eternal rivalry that has given us unforgettable nights. Now, with the change to a full season, we reward consistency, not just World Cups. Yamal fits perfectly, consistent as a Swiss clock, but with the soul of a Catalan flamenco. His season, starting in the first match against Rayo, goal in the 3rd minute, hat-trick against Sevilla in a match that seemed lost, and that decisive pass in the derby against Espanyol that sealed the Liga title. With Spain in the Nations League, goal against France, ironic, isn't it? And assist in the final against Portugal. Numbers, 25 goals and assists in total, more clean sheets when he plays than matches without him. Dembele, for his part, is reborn at PSG after erratic years at Barça. Sorry for the past, Ousmane, but it hurts to remember. Under Luis Enrique, he becomes the engine. Goal in the Champions League semi-final against Bayern. Double in the final, 22 goals, 16 assists, and with the national team, key in the Nations League. But is he the best in the world? The leak said no, that Yamal surpassed him in the narrative. The youngster breaking codes versus the veteran fulfilling his role. And that's where the heist lies. If the votes were 805 to 800, something changed in the previous hours. Qatari pressure at PSG, French lobbying. Rumors on X talk of manipulated votes, with screenshots of journalists retracting. One says, my vote was for LAMINE, but the system failed. Fico doesn't smell good. Impact on Barça. Flick, the German coach, sometimes uses him as a false nine, and the kid responds with mastery. PEDRI, his buddy, says after the ceremony, LAMINE is the best. It's just a setback. Rafinha, who finishes 4th, jokes, at least I'm not the only one being consoled. And the supporters, online petitions for poetic justice with 500,000 signatures in one night. Humor. A viral video of a CUL dressed as Yamal stealing the trophy from Dembele in a heist simulation set to the tune of Bella Ciao. Let's broaden this to a global scale. In Latin America, where Yamal is an idol by heritage, portals like Football Red headline, leak that outrages, LAMINE robbed. In England, San Yamal, the prodigy who almost made history. And in France, L'Equipe defends Dembele, trophies speak, not assists. An eternal debate, but for us, CULs, it's personal. LAMINE represents La Masia, the academy, that spirit that defines us. Stealing the Ballon d'Or from him is like taking away Messi's goal in the 6-1. It hurts, but it motivates. And the future? Yamal swears the next one will be his. It makes me stronger, he declares in an impromptu press conference at the hotel. He trains twice as hard, studies his opponents, and Barça plans to tie him down with a contract until 2030. Dembélé, on his side, celebrates in Paris with Mbappé, teammates on the national team, but he knows the world is whispering. France football, cornered, promises total transparency in 2025. We believe that. Ha, like believing Madrid doesn't cry in the Champions League, Cules. This story could stretch on for pages. Anecdotes from the ceremony, like when Yamal almost tripped over a presenter's dress, pure humor, no malice. Or Dembélé's speech, moving, thanking Luis Enrique and his family. But the heart of the matter is this, a theft that doesn't erase LAMINE's brilliance. He remains the king of the cones, trophy or not. Tomorrow in the league, he'll dribble as if nothing happened, and we'll shout his name. Because in football, as in life, the real winners don't need gold, they need soul. And LAMINE has soul to spare. Cules, we're still hungover from that Parisian night, where the Théâtre du Châtelet was the stage for a drama that leaves our hearts on the edge of our lips, as if we were in the 93rd minute of a tied Classico. LAMINE Yamal, our diamond from Mataro, is at the center of this storm. And though the Ballon d'Or went home with Ousmane Dembélé in a twist that still smells of mystery, the story doesn't end with the ceremony's final applause. No, Cules, there's more to dig into, more details to uncover, as if we were in Barca's locker room analyzing every play of a match that left a bitter taste. Imagine the atmosphere in the theater just after Dembélé lifted the trophy. The lights shine, the music plays with that epic touch straight out of a Hollywood movie, and the camera flashes bounce off the walls like balls in a penalty shootout. In the front row, the Cule delegation, a mix of LAMINE's family, Barca executives with poker faces, and a few friendly journalists there to cover the feet, tries to keep their cool, but you can feel the buzz. LAMINE's mother, Sila, is there in an elegant dress that seems to scream, "My son is the king, even if they don't see it." His father, Monir, clenches his fists, not in anger, but with that pride only a Cule father can feel when his boy is so close to glory. Cousins, uncles, and even LAMINE's grandmother, who came from Rocafonda with a Barca scarf hidden in her bag, exchange glances that say, "It's not fair, but better days will come." And LAMINE, our hero, keeps clapping with a maturity that doesn't match his 18 years, as if he already knows that football, like life, is a long match where the goal comes sooner or later. Backstage, as Dembélé poses for photos with the trophy, that golden ball that seems heavier than it should, there's controlled chaos. France football organizers rush around with headsets and tablets, making sure the ceremony doesn't spiral further. Because, Cules, the leak of that alleged voting table is no minor detail. In the hallways, whispers say an Italian journalist, one of those who covers Serie A like an opera, received an anonymous message with the full list of votes hours before. LAMINE 805, Dembélé 800, Bellingham 790, it said with terrifying precision. Who sent it? No one knows, but theories fly like pigeons in Placa de Catalunya. Some say it was an internal mistake, an intern who hit send instead of save. Others, more conspiracy-minded, point to a calculated maneuver to make noise and divert attention from another controversial award, like the Yashin or the Gerd Müller Trophy. What's certain is that France football's communications team is in damage control, sending emails to the media with a clear message: the leak is fake. The process is flawless. But, Cules, when the river roars. And speaking of rivers, on social media, the flood of opinions doesn't stop. On X, Cules are unleashed, but with that touch of humor that defines us. A user, at @CulaDeCorazon92, posts a montage of LAMINE with a thief's mask holding the Ballon d'Or, captioned, "Don't worry, kid. Next year, we'll steal it ourselves." Another, at Barkasi7, goes further and creates a 20-tweet thread analyzing every match of LAMINE's season, from the stunning goal against Girona, a 25-meter missile that left the keeper looking for the ball in the parking lot, to the millimeter-perfect assist in the Copa semi-final against Valencia. The thread ends with a sentence that sums up the Cule feeling: "If this isn't a Ballon d'Or, tell me what is." And on X, a spontaneous initiative takes shape, a petition for France football to publish the detailed votes, something they never do, but this time, with the leak, it seems more necessary than ever. It already has 100,000 signatures and counting. At the heart of this night, LAMINE remains the protagonist. In his room, before sleeping, he responds to messages from his La Masia teammates who support him. One of them, a kid playing in Juvenile A, writes to him, "Cappy, you inspire us." It's a reminder that LAMINE isn't just a player, he's a beacon for the kids who dream of reaching the first team. And as Paris falls asleep with the Seine reflecting the city's lights, we Cules know that this night, though bitter, is just the beginning. LAMINE, with his smile and his magic, is already writing the next chapter. Visca el Barça and Visca Catalunya.